Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Wondergoal, the soccer betting podcast from the Action Network, presented to you by our friends at Bet365. My name is Michael Leboff, and joining me for this our second of two group stage round two previews are Sam Ingram and BJ Cunningham, and together the three of us are going to go on a little handicapping journey through the 6 matches coming our way on Friday and Saturday. That's June 21 and June 22. And we'll start with Slovakia and Ukraine. Sam, you tweeted out a stat about Slovakia's upset at Belgium being one of the biggest we've seen by betting odds in Euro history. And now they are a plus 270 underdog against the Ukraine, who they got upset themselves by Romania. Ukraine still, though, the betting market relatively bullish on them at plus 110. The draw here is plus 230. Here's my concern here for the Ukraine is that I think that this match can look a lot like that Romania one, where they have the ball, tons of the ball, but they just can't get anything going. So that's putting me towards the draw here, Sam. But I'm willing to hear what you have to say because you look, from our notes, it sounds like you're a little bit more confident that Ukraine could get this one across the line.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, Michael. To be honest, the bet I'm going with is Ukraine double chance and most corners at plus 175. So I'm not fully sold on Ukraine getting the 3 points they desperately need here. I'm not quite sure whether that's going to happen. If you look at the opener against Romania, you had Stanchu's strike getting the Romanians off to a flyer, which was goal of the tournament. Beautiful until Arda Güler's effort against Georgia. You can't really do too much about that from Ukraine's point of view. That it was a shanked clearance into Stanchu's path, which was avoidable, but the finish was sublime. And that's kind of how the game panned out. Romania were clinical, 5 shots on target, 3 goals from 1.20 XG. And like you said, that will be the blueprint for Slovakia if they can pin down those types of chances. And looking at Ukraine specifically, their attack felt disjointed. It's supposed to be their best asset, yet it got nowhere near to firing in the opener. Dovbyk was isolated for large parts and he rarely threatened. He had one shot 20 minutes in and that sailed over the bar and that was it. For a man in such good form, Ukraine just couldn't get the ball to him. Their centre-backs were all over Dovbyk and the Romanian centre-backs, their assignment was obvious. Don't let him play and there's a good chance that their keeper will be largely untroubled. Romania conceded 5 goals in 10 games during qualifying, and they were just one of 6 nations to go unbeaten. So maybe we shouldn't be too surprised that they handled Ukraine's front line. Maybe wouldn't have expected with such ease, really, in terms of result, but there you go. In Ukraine versus Slovakia, I kind of expect that forward line to liven up a little. Sudakov was quiet. I don't think he'll be as quiet. Mudryk and Tsigankov, they didn't have the desired impact and they'll be tasked to get on the ball and make things happen here. So I expect them to be a little more up to it and at it against Slovakia. They've got a point to prove now and they desperately need the 3 points ahead of them with a meeting with Belgium on the horizon too. So I think we should see Ukraine dominating and sitting in Slovakia's half for large spells. A draw sends Slovakia through. A draw is not enough for Ukraine. And to be fair, for Slovakia, maybe a loss would send them through as well. But so the way I think it will play out is that the metrics, corner shots, final third entries will be in Ukraine's favor. And I think we should see the front four utilized. They've got an array of different capabilities in that forward line. You've got Mudryk, which bundles of pace, likes to hit the byline. Tsigankov will whip balls in from the right, and Sudakov will likely release a fair few of his trademark line shots. So all of them put together, it's a recipe for a developing corner count. So you can get Ukraine double chance at minus 357. Obviously, not interested in that. But to drag it up to plus 175 by adding most corners, given the game state, I think that's something I'm going to take on.
Yeah, I could see this playing out exactly how you said. I think there's value because of that on the draw. I do think that Slovakia is going to be so happy just to sit back and absorb and absorb and absorb, knowing that a draw gets them through. A loss, like you said, as long as it's respectable, does as well. I think that sets up for a pretty stodgy contest and the type of one where if Slovakia does get a goal, early, or before if they score first here, and Ukraine is then forced to just come forward, um, Slovakia would just be so happy to sit back and be like, well, 2-1 loss really isn't a huge deal for them, and obviously a 1-1 draw is would be celebrated across the entire country. So I think there's a lot of different ways we can get to the draw here, and a plus 230 with the way that this stylistically sets up. I think that's where I'll end up. I might have a little sprinkle on 0-0 as well at plus 750. BJ, what do you think here?
I actually like Slovakia plus half a goal at minus 125. Kind of going on along the lines of both things you guys are saying here. The problem with Ukraine that you saw against Romania is it kind of goes back to the beginning of this whole qualifying process, because Reberov wanted to turn them into solely a build out of the back, possession dominant type of team. But what kept happening, especially against England and against Italy, is they just kept turning the ball over in their own final third. And like Sam mentioned, that is how the Stanislaw goal happened, because they turned it over in their final third and gave them a chance. And even eventually the third goal as well came off a high turnover. They didn't create anything, even though they were down 3 goals and the onus was on them to attack. They controlled 71% of the ball, took 13 shots, but 8 of those shots came from outside the box, and they only created 0.55 expected goals. It kind of comes back to the point of, and I think I mentioned this in the last podcast, or if I didn't, Ukraine's a very talented team. There is no doubt about that. But they have had horrible underlying numbers for a really long time. Since September of 2021, they actually have a negative expected goal differential. You can have all the talent in the world, but you cannot outrun bad underlying numbers. And the one thing that I'll say about Slovakia is, yes, Michael, they probably will see it deep for most of this match. But how did they score their goal against Belgium? It's because they pressed them high and forced a high turnover and scored. So they are capable of doing that. And they showed that even when they played Portugal in qualifying. So they could actually press Ukraine here and actually cause them some problems. So I have this match projected pretty close to a pick 'em. And given, Ukraine's underlying numbers and how they looked against Romania, I think that's where this should be more priced. So I like Slovakia plus half a goal, minus 125.
One of the great things about these tournaments is that you can watch a team lose and come away feeling better about them, just overall and like the big picture, especially if that's if it's their first match of the tournament. That's how I felt about Austria, who now take on Poland. Austria is minus 106 on the three-way line at Bet365. Poland plus 290. They lost 2-1 to the Netherlands. They scored the first goal in that one, but then conceded 2 in a row, and the draw here is plus 250. I'm not too thrilled with the price on Austria in this game, BJ, but what I am thinking here is I want to keep backing this side. I don't know if it's just going to be, somehow in the futures market. They're obviously their price has drifted a little bit from where it was to start, but they were already a long shot. Or if it's just I'm going to wait until hopefully they advance and try to take on whoever they play in round 2. I thought that they were really good against France. So if you can play like that against in France, and yeah, like tough 1-0 defeat, but if you can play like that against them, I feel pretty confident about this team going forward. And you were on them and on Ralph Ragnick being a pretty good fit for this side. So how do you feel about their chances here and anything about Austria going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very encouraged by, what I saw from France. And I thought they, in the end, a lot of France's chances came after they were up 1-0. But before the own goal, I mean, France was doing next to nothing and Austria was outplaying them. So yeah, of course, in the end, if you look at expected goals, you'll see it was, France had a little over 2 with Austria at 0.78, I think it was. So in the end, yes, it, probably France deserved a 1-goal win, but this is going to be a really different type of matchup. And I didn't think Poland was that bad against the Netherlands. I thought they were generally pretty decent in their defensive block. Yes, they conceded a ton of shots, and the Netherlands had, close to a little over 1 expected goal at halftime. But once we got into the second half, I mean, Netherlands really wasn't creating much up until the Weghorst goal. And eventually, yes, they deserved the win. But the concern here for Austria is, okay, we're this really good pressing team. Like, we gave France all these problems. Now we're going to have to face a team that is not even going to try and build out of the back, a team that's going to send the ball long, put the onus on us to control possession and break them down. That is where I'm starting to kind of not question Austria's ability to win this match, but back them at this low of a price, because the price keeps going down, right? They were about plus 130-ish before the tournament started. Now we're down to around even money. It looks like Lewandowski's not going to play, which, as we've mentioned many times on this podcast, is a blow, but not as big of a blow as it was in tournaments past. So for me, I'm passing on this match. If I was a neutral, I think there's a little bit of value on Poland if you want to play it. But Michael, I have too much money invested in Austria to fade them here. So I'm just going to be passing and hoping for an Austria win.
Sam, what do you think here?
I agree, Michael. I have Austria minus 0.5 in handicap down at even money, which is what I'm going to put forward, but probably priced about right, I think. They played well against France. We said they would, pressed high up the pitch as we expected them to, did so with some success. They had more possession, completed more passes, and made more passes into the final third than France did. And in Poland, they come up against the weakest team in the group. They won't dominate as much as the ball as France would, but we saw in the opening game that Poland are happy to get on the ball and knock it around under their new manager. I thought they were bright in possession. And although entering the game amidst an injury crisis of sorts, really, at the top end of the pitch, I thought they were right. And they've got the confidence to get on the ball. And that might just play into Austria's hands. You mentioned there Lewandowski might not feature again. And I think Adam Buska deputized really, really well up front. That can't be easy coming out and replacing Lewandowski in the opening game of a major tournament. I think he did well. He got about the pitch and he finished his effort from the corner delightfully, really. And so here at even money, although maybe priced about right, I think with two teams needing to win to get out of the group, with both France and Netherlands up next, I just feel Austria have enough to edge proceedings here, as the game might open up in search for a goal. Poland might struggle to keep up with the intensity that Austria brings. Austria's defeat to France actually saw them fail to score for the first time in 18 games. So suppose they find the net here, that might place the onus on Poland to get on the ball in areas kind of want them to get on the ball, and that might hurt them. So I've got Austria down for this one, minus 0.5.
So we remain bullish on Austria. So the next two matches we'll talk about, you'd imagine that the first one we'll discuss, which is Netherlands-France, has the potential to be maybe the fixture of round two or one of them, but I think it's actually the one that we'll talk about on Saturday morning between Georgia and Czech Republic that can go absolutely in a million different directions. But we'll get to that headliner in a second. Let's talk Netherlands and France. Clockwork Orange plus 220 underdogs on the three-way line. France, Les Bleus are plus 125 favorites. The draw is plus 240. Of course, there's big homework to do here with Kylian Mbappe's status after he got bonked on the nose. It's I'm assuming he's gonna play. I don't he'll
say it sounds like he's not going to play as
really?
of right now. We'll see. I don't know.
He's gonna have the mask. He'll be fine.
The news is kind of wonky. I've heard like when it first happened, it was like he's out for the tournament, and then it was like, oh wait, hold on, he's not having surgery. Like
I guess they'd want to play it safe, but I coming from the NHL and hockey, like all these coaches do is lie. So I'm always assuming someone's in until the team sheets are handed in. Anyways, so just keep an eye on that. That's why I think Netherlands has shortened a bit here, or it is why Netherlands has shortened a bit here. I don't see too much value here. One thing I will say is I think this one plays out pretty similar to Austria versus France. I don't think that there's going to be the back and forth. This is why I was kind of juxtaposing these two matches, because you'd assume with these two heavyweights in the tournament and two teams you'd associate with offensive firepower going at it compared to Czech Republic and Georgia, like you'd assume that this would be the match that people would want to watch. But I'd actually say if you're looking at it from a neutral, the one on Saturday morning between Georgia and Czech Republic is going to be a lot more appealing to the eye. I think that this one looks like an unders match to me. I think both teams would be super satisfied with just getting the draw, getting out healthy, no more broken noses. for me. I mean, so however you want to attack that, if that means a play on the draw, I don't hate the draw here. I don't hate, once again, the 0-0 at 9-1 looks pretty interesting and enticing. But it's a tough one to handicap, I think, just in generally speaking, because of the talent level from the two sides, the Mbappe news, and France looking relatively unconvincing in their opening match. And I guess you can say similar for Netherlands. It took some time for them to get going.
Couldn't agree more. And if there is no Kylian Mbappe, the Dutch are his favourite opponent. He's got 6 goals in 5 matches against them, more so than any other nation in his international career. So if he doesn't play, clearly a big miss anyway, but he's quite handy against the Dutch too. Yeah, this is a tough one to approach for me from a betting point of view. I'd be more inclined to wait and watch the prices, watch the markets on the exchange, see how they react to the confirmation of Mbappe being in or out. I'm not sure that's fully factored into the price right now. So me personally, I'd wait it out to see what happens. For the Netherlands, it was an okay showing. I don't think they're the complete package. Didn't think so before entering the tournament. Up top, Gakpo, Siemens, Depay, they're going to cause nations problems. They're not too bad as a front three. And Denzel Dumfries is influential to this side too. He gets forward and has the nous to pick out an intelligent pass or two. When he gets forward, Nathan Ake at left back pulls inside to create what's essentially 3 central defenders when in possession. So that provides a nice solid base for Netherlands to launch attacks. And against France, I think Coman, I'm not sure, I think he might look to drop one of the forward lads from the front line and add another central defender to maybe make 5 at the back. And he's got a pick of 4 or 5 really solid options there to do that. So we might see Netherlands line up a little bit more defensively, try and soak up France a little bit more than what we saw in their approach to the game against Poland. And if you couple that with Kylian Mbappe being out, and if you couple that with the two sides probably happy to shake hands, call it a draw, progress through to the knockouts, then yeah, I think I'd side with unders more than anything. But I've not got an official play. But if I had to, it'll be unders on the goal line.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I'm passing on this match because these two faced off in qualifying, and something that France actually did that was very impressive. Under Deschamps, they are a way more passive team, and as you saw against Austria, they're just looking for any chance they can to get in transition. And they actually pressed the Netherlands pretty high, and they forced a lot of problems in both meetings against them. Now, I bet the Netherlands in both of those qualifying meetings and lost. So I'm just going to pass and let France do what they do. But yeah, we'll see if Mbappe plays. I've heard he's out for the group stage. He's going to come back for the knockouts. I've heard he might play for this match. I don't know. So let's just wait and see. But even if he does play, I won't have a pick on this match.
It's just a broken nose as well. Just get on with it, surely. Get a mask on.
Yeah, I mean, you can't breathe, but who cares? Just breathe through your mouth, right? It's not a problem.
Just get a mask on. Yeah, you'll be all right.
Yeah, get a mask that even prevents you from breathing even more through your mouth. Like, come on.
Teddy Sheringham would play through it. All right, and I wasn't kidding. Like, this Georgia Czech Republic match to me is fascinating on so many levels. BJ kind of pegged this Czech Republic team as being a little bit of chaotic. Before the tournament started, that played true in their match against Portugal. Although it was 0-0 at halftime, that thing was tons of fun to watch. Things obviously reached a fever pitch in the business end of that contest, and now they take on a Georgia side that perhaps played the match of the tournament. I mean, maybe the Albania-Croatia match we just watched gets close to it, but I still think Georgia versus Turkey, from a sheer entertainment value, was the best that we've seen in this tournament. And now Georgia is plus 400 against the Czechs, who are minus 138. The draw here is plus 270. This thing, like I said, I think this thing can go in so many different directions. You'd imagine that both teams will go for it. They both need to win. Czech Republic will be the favorite. They should be on the ball. But Georgia showed some teeth, I guess you could say, against a Turkey side that ended up getting a 3-1 win. And I guess the way I came away from that performance with Georgia was that a lot of times when we see countries like this take their first step into a major international tournament, they play things close to the vest. So Georgia just did not do that. They were brave. It was a lot of fun to watch. I think, Sam, your bet here makes a lot of sense. I would go probably build off of what you say and maybe go a little bit further than what you got.
I just struggle to see, and this is not really how we should bet, but I struggle to see how you watch Georgia versus Turkey and don't instantly think, no matter who they're playing, there has to be goals in Georgia's
Yes.
next game. Like, game of the tournament by far for me. It was brilliant. I was on edge of my seat throughout, and what really stood out to me was from Georgia's point of view was, you mentioned it there, like you hit the nail on the head, like the bravery. Like, Georgia's midfielders were brave and joined Mikadze and Kvaratskhelia regularly up top, progressing up the pitch. They continue to make progressive runs all game, linked really well whenever moving forward. And yeah, the thing that really struck me was just how like efficient Georgia are when attacking. They come forward with such conviction and quality. Turkey really struggled to contain them, and that was a running theme. Georgia had 14 shots in the match, which was the most by a nation in their first ever match at the European Championship since Austria in 2008. And if you look at Czech Republic's opening match, although obviously much different against a much better team, they managed one shot on target, which was a beautiful effort from outside the box. But other than that, not really anything to shout home about in terms of the stats and like a clinical edge. Really 0.43 xg from the game. Schick looks a bit off it, but he's only started 12 matches in the Bundesliga this season. They completed just 169 passes against Portugal. That's the fewest of any side in match day one at the Euros this year. So I don't think there's too much to go off for, to go off from as betters in terms of Czech Republic if you're attempting to use this as a guide for the next 90 minutes. You mentioned it, Michael. This thing could go any way, and I do agree with that. But I just think Georgia can get something from this game if they play like they did against Turkey. The two lads up top have to turn up, and then midfield just has to do really what they did in the opening 90 minutes, show that kind of desire that they did in the opening match. And from the markets available to me now, both teams to score at -120 looks great, really. I don't really think I need to delve too much further in it. The goal line looks a play as well. So yeah, -120, both teams to score.
Yeah.
You know, this is, yeah, I mean, this is going to be a very, sorry, go ahead, Michael. I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, that's all right. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that we're going to see both teams scoring. I think that this has an early goal written all over it. This back and forth. If you are someone who wants to play some live bets on a team maybe that falls behind early, go for it. I think the alternate markets in terms of totals are fine. 4.5 at +500. Honestly, even 5.5 at 12 to 1 to me is interesting because they both need to win. Like whoever, if we see goals in this match, whoever scores that first goal, immediately the other team needs to take what should be already a risky approach from both of them and double down on it. So I think that at the risk of, someone who bets, 0-0s at least once a week, like, and watch this one be the 0-0. I think that this thing is going to be a carnival. I can't wait for it. I do think if you had to pick a side, I would certainly lean with Georgia. I think Czech Republic is getting a little bit too much credit as a -138 favorite. So at 4 to 1, heck, if you wanted to play an alternate line, Georgia -1.5, don't hate it either because of the chaos. Play into that chaos. This is the match to do it. It sets up for it. I would, however you want to play into it, the carnage, the chaos, the goals, find that angle and do it, BJ, because this thing should be so much fun to watch. 9 a.m. Eastern time on a Saturday morning for us, a little bit later across the pond for Sam. But what a way to wake up! But because this thing, it'll get you hooked.
Yeah, I actually like the Czech Republic quite a lot in this match. Their game plan against Portugal is obviously very different than what it's going to be in this match, right? So there's not much I can really take away from that match that applies to this one because they're not going to be sitting in a low defensive block and like conceding a ton of possession for the whole match. But I do think it really sets up to allow the Czech Republic to thrive in what they do best. Coming in the tournament, we said this is a very aggressive team out of possession. They did not show that against Portugal because the game plan was pretty simple from the pretty clear from the beginning that we're just going to defend deep. Here, I think they're going to press Georgia, and they're going to force the issue and force Georgia to actually build out through there and be more aggressive. Again, I've said it before, but they led Euro qualifying in high recoveries. Georgia allowed the second most high recoveries of anybody. And what was striking about that Georgia performance is they did not play like that at all during qualifying when they played good teams. Like, they generally would sit deep, and then they would just send long balls up to Kvaratskhelia and just kind of like hope for the best. So it was actually pretty shocking to see them come out. And, some of it may have had to do with the fact that they went down a goal and they had to be more aggressive and the game state was not in their favor. But even when it was 1-1, they were still playing very aggressively and trying to go forward. I worry here, though, that if they try to do that here against the Czech Republic, who is a very good physical pressing side, that they're going to turn the ball over in their own end a lot and give the Czech Republic a lot of easy transition opportunities. Also, Turkey had 9 accurate crosses in that match. Georgia, through qualifying, was dead last in aerial duel win rate. That is how the Czech Republic scores most of the goals. It's off of set pieces, transition attacks, and crosses into the box. So I actually like the Czech Republic quite a bit at -125. I think the price is kind of low. I mean, we have to remember, I know it's one match, but throughout all of qualifying, Georgia allowed over 2 expected goals per 90 minutes. Like, this is still not a great or not really that talented of a defensive side. So I like the Czech Republic -125. I think they'll be very set up very well here, both out of possession and in possession, to take advantage of Georgia's weaknesses.
The show notes will tell the story, but this is why I love podcasting about betting on soccer rather than just talking narratives and such, because I think we're going to end up spending more time on this Georgia team than any other team in this tournament because their matches, especially one like this against a side that could be a little vulnerable, are going to be a lot of fun. So that's Georgia and Czech Republic. Like I said, that's the Saturday morning kickoff, June 22nd here in Eastern Standard Time, in the early afternoon for those of you listening over in the UK and Europe abroad. That brings us to Turkey and Portugal. Turkey was the other side of that Georgia match that was a lot of fun. Arda Güler announced himself to the greater soccer world with his goal. They are now +450 against Portugal, who fell behind and ended up winning deservingly so against the Czechs. Portugal's -175 here. The draw is +333. I like Turkey. I'm not too enamored with it, but I just think that this Portugal side showed that they're going to have moments of struggling defensively, and if I know that one shot on goal, then it goes in against the Czechs. It's better than it is good. Like, it was a good performance defensively from them. I just still don't trust Roberto Martinez setting the side up against a side with more attacking panache than the Czechs. I think Turkey should be able to get one here and put some pressure on Portugal. I'm either gonna go down swinging and lose everything trying to beat Roberto, or hopefully one of these times I'll be able to catch him with one of these big underdogs. But I would lean towards Turkey here. I think that they struggled in stopping Georgia, which kind of scary considering what Portugal's going to throw at them. But BJ, I just can't trust Portugal. And when you can't trust a team, you're not laying -175 against to bet them. So give me Turkey, I guess.
Roberto Martinez's setup, Michael, was puzzling to me. And I get that they dominated the match. And if you watch it, you're like, oh my gosh, Portugal deserved to win. In the end, yes, they did. So, but what kept happening, or what he was doing, are the guys that he put on the pitch. Vitinha, Bruno Fernandes, and Bernardo Silva were all operating in the middle of the pitch. It was like a log jam there. And then they had João Cancelo inverting from left back. So there were 4 guys in the middle of the pitch, all playing kind of the same position, and all of them kind of have similar traits as well. So the first problem with that is, okay, so if you're going to have that many guys in the middle of the pitch, then surely you should be able to overload it and attack teams right through the middle. That didn't happen against the Czech Republic. 22% of their attacks came through the middle. The rest of them went out wide. Essentially, they were getting the ball in the middle. They couldn't play through the middle, so they just sent the ball out wide, and they just sent in cross after cross after cross. 29 crosses in total for the match. 4 of them were completed in the penalty area. That is an incredibly low percentage. And the Czech Republic was happy to just continually let them do that. The other problem, and this is something that Turkey will be able to take advantage of that the Czech Republic wasn't, because if we're being honest, the Czech Republic's transitions, and it was really rainy as well, they were just slow and they weren't able to attack them quickly when they did win the ball. But if you look at the setup of Portugal's starting 11 with Vitinha, Bruno Fernandes, João Cancelo, Bernardo Silva, there's no ball winning anywhere on the pitch there. So good transition attacking teams will beat you. And there were a lot of times when a 41-year-old Pepe was their only cover in transition if there were going to be long balls over the top, which is something that Turkey did really well when they beat Croatia in qualifying. That's kind of the match that I mirror it to, where they let Croatia have a lot of the ball. They sat in a 4-4-2, and then they looked to beat them in transition and did so very, very effectively. So I really like Turkey here. I like them +1 at -110. You know, the Czech Republic doesn't have the ball carrying, the passing, and the deep lying playmakers that Turkey has. And Turkey showed that against Georgia. Turkey during qualifying, if Portugal decides to just send in a bunch of crosses again, like, it was so funny. And the announcers said it, I don't know if they said it over in the UK, but here in the United States, about like 40 minutes in, they were kind of like, well, it looks like Portugal's all out of answers because they just keep crossing the ball into the box and not doing anything else. So 40 minutes into a tournament, if you're all out of answers of how to actually break down a low block, that tends to be a little bit of a problem. So, yeah, I really like Turkey here. +1, they're a good transition side. They allowed the third lowest cross completion percentage during qualifying. So even though they didn't look that good against Georgia, and a lot of that was them not defending well in transition, they're not going to be allowing a lot of transition attacks here against Portugal. It's going to be a lot of them doing the transitioning from deep. So I like Turkey +1 at -110.
Instantly, from a betting perspective in this game, I'm drawn to the goals markets, but I'm trying to be quite mindful that it could just be a reaction to what we've seen this tournament, what we saw in Georgia versus Turkey, for example. But there's a line of thinking as well that maybe the longer the national teams have with their respective managers, the more likely we are to see teams tighten up and be more solid, like more well-drilled defensively. I really hope that's not the case, because it's been bloody brilliant, really. What I would say, which has maybe improved in recent years, and it's hard to be sure because we've only played one match day, is that the lesser nations, the sides who maybe come through qualification or finish second in the group, they're really handy. They feel like much tougher opposition than in previous years. Like, the weaker sides are competitive even in defeat, and I've not really got anything to back that up in terms of stats, but that's just how it feels. Can Turkey score against this Portugal side? I think they can. If we break down their 3 goals against a much weaker Georgia side, there was a volley outside the box, which was brilliant. Gula screamer, and then a breakaway goal against no goalkeeper, but they did rack up 2.7 XG, I think it was. So they had their chances too. I do think they can score against Portugal, and I think Portugal's got more than enough to score against them. And, you know, it's not the most inventive, thrilling bet of all time, but I think I may have to take both teams to score again, Michael, at 1.80. I've got down on the sheet pass, but after what BJ was saying, he's kind of convinced me, and I've kind of convinced myself. So I'm just going to go for it and say both teams to score at 1.80.
Okay, let's go into the final match we'll talk about before giving out our best bets. But before we do that, a reminder that Wondergoal is proudly presented by Bet365, and Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than anyone else. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. If you or anyone you know has a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. The schedule makers made me wait to do it, but we got to talk about Romania. They're 6-1 underdogs against Belgium, who are in a must-win spot that I don't think anyone saw coming. They are now -223 against Romania in this match, +250 to win the group. Belgium, who were obviously a decided favorite, considering the company they're keeping here in this set. The draw is +350. All three of us had the same idea, had a feeling that this was going to happen. Romelu Lukaku, someone who we were talking about as a golden boot bet before the tournament started, doesn't score. Well, he does score, but he doesn't score twice. And I got to say, I still like the bet a lot. I think that if you can get Lukaku golden boots, you should start scooping them up. Nobody's run away with it yet. There's been no crazy crooked number performance from anyone. He's obviously looked on it. He should have. The poor guy has just not been able to finish his chances for Belgium in their last two matches. He should have plenty of chances against Romania. This could be a hat trick bet. He's 15-1 to do so. 20-1 probably out there as well. So I don't hate that. I don't hate the 2+. I don't hate Lukaku to score 2, Belgium to win, and I don't hate the double, which is Belgium now to win the tournament and Lukaku to win the golden boot, which is out there at triple digits. It was half the price. So if my point is, if you liked Lukaku golden boot before that game, you should still and perhaps like it even more because the price is better, Sam. So I'm not going to be on Romania here. They've done me well already. I'm happy to take this match off for my beloved Romanians and just root for Lukaku to pace them here.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it there. I thought we were just going to gloss over the fact that you were eulogizing about Romania pre that opening round, opening match day. So pat on the back to you, mate. Yeah, Romelu Lukaku, I just feel so sorry for him. Like, we've seen time and time again that Belgium's chance creation ends up at his feet, ends up in good areas. In qualifying, he made that count again and again. And here, just so unlucky on that second go not to get that as his first of the tournament. Obviously, the first one was rightly ruled out, but the second one, I'm not so sure. In the States, did you have that snicker meter that popped up like they do in cricket? Did you see that?
Oh, the Ultra Edge?
Is that like a worldwide thing? Yeah.
No, I think it wasn't on our broadcast, I don't think, but it made its rounds. And
It did for the first time here.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, it did for the handball. It definitely did.
It was great. It was great to see because as a cricket loser, I was cracking up to see the Ultra Edge pop up. Now it's going mainstream, baby. The best review between tennis and cricket, they go back and forth to me who has the best review system. But if we're moving soccer closer to cricket, that's better for me. So yeah, we saw it. And poor.
Maybe I shouldn't bring it up. I chatted about on the Bet and Expert podcast earlier. Like, I just don't think I'm having it. Like, if you've got to get one of like a snicker meter up to see if a lad's flicked it with like one of his fingers, like
Incredible.
30 yards from goal.
I thought we were trying to walk away from that. It's so good that they
like,
brought it in. What is going on?
It's just anyway. Let's move on because I could honestly.
Game's gone, Sam.
The game's gone.
It really. I could talk about that all day. We best move on, right? Yeah, let's start with Carrasco at left back in a flat back four. Like, I'm not sure what's going on there either. Like, he didn't look assured there. His link up play with Trossard wasn't too sure about that either. Slovakia's high press in the first half, BJ mentioned it, right in the corner, Jeremy Doku give the ball away. And that was their game plan. Before the game, Calzona, Slovakia head coach, not an Italian dish, said, Belgium are good in transition on the counter-attack, but we have our own way of playing. When you press well, it can be an advantage, but if you don't, then you leave more space. So it was always part of the plan. Press high, try their luck, and fight within an inch of their lives if they manage to nick an advantage in the game. So yeah, Doku being squeezed over by the corner flag, that was no fluke. And the big talking point, obviously, from the game is Lukaku's 2 disallowed goals. But before that, before the Slovakia goal, he missed a sitter from about 5 yards out. He's got to do better there. And then Slovakia's gone up the other end of the pitch and scored. So on another day, this could have been 2-3, 4-1, 4-0 to Belgium, but it just didn't go that way. So I expect to see maybe a similar performance, but just hopefully with more of a clinical edge from Belgium and from Lukaku. And that's why at +100, Lukaku anytime goal scorer, like, he cannot be that unlucky again. I'm sure of it. So let's hope he gets on the score sheet.
Yeah, I was on Lukaku anytime goal scorer against Slovakia, and I gotta say, it was maybe the most fun I've had in a really long time. I felt every single emotion. I felt pain, I felt joy, I felt heartache, I felt everything. It was true. I felt, I felt it was pure comedy, the whole thing. So this is from XG Philosophy. Lukaku had 0 goals off of 0.95 expected in the match, and the 2 goals that were VAR'd off had an XG rating of 1.23, which is crazy. I mean, I can't remember what his exact XG was from that match against Croatia at the World Cup, but yeah, I mean, this is a similar situation, right? Like Romania is going to play a very similar structure to Slovakia. They're going to sit deep, but the beauty of Lukaku is that he is just like the perfect all-around striker if you could build one, because if Romania's going to sit deep and Belgium's going to be ending up sending a lot of crosses, well, he's great as an aerial threat. He's incredible at pinning defenders on his back. He's great in the half space. He's wonderful at making runs off the back line. Like he's an all-around great striker, except for maybe finishing, I guess. But the thing about it is, as well, is like, you can make the argument and say, well, Dovbyk is a similar striker and he got no service. Well, Belgium's got much better playmakers and guys to get Lukaku the ball than Ukraine does. So I think we'll see Belgium dominate a lot of the ball. But yeah, Lukaku anytime goal scorer, mainly just for the content. As one of our
Just Mark Gallet.
yeah, one of our longtime listeners, his name is Charlie, put in our Discord that the bet was just tremendous content, and
Yeah.
that's what we're going for here again. Just some more tremendous content. Hopefully, puts the ball in the back of the net and it doesn't get VAR'd off. But yeah, Lukaku anytime goal scorer.
You know how this ends, right?
I know how it ends, but I'm gonna have a lot of fun doing it.
I'll tell you how it ends. Lukaku, 3rd minute red card.
That would be great.
That's what's like. I honestly, it's the only way I could see him not scoring in this match
I
is if he
know.
gets sent off.
I know. It's crazy.
It's so good. All right, so all of us are on the same side there. We'll be back on Romania, I'm sure, for their group stage finale against Slovakia,
Which is going to be a huge match.
It's yeah. I mean that this tournament is really so well poised for matches like these. There's not going to be many dead rubber matches in that 3rd round, and I know that the tournament set up with 24 teams and 16 getting through came under a lot of criticism, and deservingly so, I think, for that first time that they introduced this format. But this is, I think, why it does make some sense, and it's just going to be a lot of fun from here on out, as if it hasn't already been. Okay, for our favorite bets for these 6 matches coming your way, the second half of group stage round 2, starting with Friday, June 21st, and going through the afternoon on Saturday. BJ, what do you got?
Czech Republic -125 against Georgia. Although Georgia played more aggressively than in their first match against Turkey than they did in qualifying, it kind of sets up poorly here against the Czech Republic because they wanted to play more in transition, try and get the ball to their own final third quickly. It's going to give Czech Republic a lot of opportunities to take the ball away from them. Czech Republic led Euro qualifying in high recoveries. Georgia allowed the 2nd most high recoveries, especially when they played Spain, and Spain counter-pressed them. They struggled to get the ball out of their own final third. And they're also really bad at winning aerial duels and defending crosses, which are the 2 areas that the Czech Republic absolutely thrives in. So I think the matchup actually sets up pretty well for the Czech Republic here, and I like them on the money line at -125.
Okay, I'll do it. I'll go with Romelu Lukaku to score twice at 5-1. We're on the anytime goal scorer. I think that this could be a Lukaku masterclass as long as he doesn't get sent off early. I think Belgium should have plenty of opportunities. He'll want to make do or make amends for what we saw against Slovakia. And I do think, as I mentioned, that if you were someone who wanted to bet Lukaku to win the Golden Boot, maybe the price shortened on you before you got there, or you were someone who was like wavering on it. If you had any conviction of it, I would get in now. I think that he didn't do anything besides not score to keep you off of that. So, but my favorite bet, I'll go Lukaku 2+ 5-1. Sam, what do you got?
Both teams to score in Czech Republic versus Georgia. We might not see a game mirroring that of Turkey versus Georgia, which was excellent, but that opening day run out should have equipped the Georgians with the belief that they can stride into this match with their chest out, give it a really good go. They're efficient when moving through the thirds. They've got intricate build-up play in their locker in and around the box, and their midfield has that level of attack intent needed to ruffle a few feathers in your opponent's defensive third. They'll get forward and support Mikitadze and Kvaratskhelia, and at -120, it's not the biggest price in the world, but it's one that should come close with the need for 3 points in either camp. Of their remaining 2 games, this is the match where both nations will be targeting a win, and that could lead to a bit of a shootout as we approach the latter stages.
Perfect. Okay, that does it for this episode. We'll be back for the first half of the third round of the group stage. We're going to record that on Friday, get you set up for the matches on the other side of the weekend. And then we'll be back once again in a couple days later for the second half. And then we're into the knockout stages already. For BJ and Sam, I'm Michael. Thank you to our producer, Noah. Thank you to our sponsors, Bet365. Best of luck to everybody over the weekend, especially Romelu Lukaku.